Whether it's throwing potions at the back of your mate's head to revive them from the dead, or stocking up on copious amounts of gunpowder to blow up your enemies, Baldur's Gate 3 lets you do pretty much anything you can imagine, as long as you have the know-how. Here's 8 helpful bits of information to help you get started. Right-clicking on enemies and selecting the Examine option will bring up a list of useful information about that specific enemy, from the more baseline things such as their race, hit points, armor class, as well as critical combat information such as buffs, debuffs, weaknesses, and resistances. This vital information will help you choose the right strategies and spells to target your enemies, meaning you can do the best damage you can and avoid using something that they might be immune to. On top of examining enemies, you can also get information on other things within the world, such as containers, weakened wall segments, and doors. Chances are, if you can examine it and it has a health bar, then it can be destroyed, allowing you to bypass things such as needing keys and puzzles. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't all about the combat, however, and a lot of the game will be focused around interacting with NPCs and the world via things known as skill checks. The guidance cantrip is especially useful for making these checks a lot easier to deal with by adding an extra 1d4 to your check. This works on anything from passive skill checks such as perception and sneaking around, active skill checks such as picking locks, and even dialogue options such as persuasion and intimidation. It's a versatile tool that can be used on any party member, and it stacks with other bonuses such as proficiency and ability modifiers. It can be used retroactively when making the roll, so long as the character who has access to the spell is within your reach, and all you have to do in this case is select the Add Bonus button at the bottom of the UI, and then click on the Guidance option. Right-clicking anything in your inventory gives you the option to send to camp. This puts it in the camp storage, which is an infinite container that you can access anytime you go to your camp, which you can do by pressing M, going to the map menu, and clicking on the waypoint on the right. This is perfect for managing inventory space, keeping items for the next time you're at a vendor to sell, as well as making lower strength characters stay unencumbered. This is especially important because encumbrance is incredibly debilitating in this game, reducing your movement speed and imposing several debuffs that will make you much less effective at both combat and traversal. Be on the lookout for other useful objects that you could also store for later, things like explosive barrels, lock chests, etc. Send these to camp until you need them instead of letting them weigh you down. Gathering your party close to each other and then throwing a potion at the ground in between everybody is a good way to make single-use potions go further by applying to more than one target. The potion will shatter, and if spaced properly, it will apply its effect to everybody nearby. Turn-based mode can make this trick easier to execute, as a circle is drawn beneath your character to show how close they can actually stand next to each other, as well as marking within the circle whenever the character is within range of the effect before you throw it. This is also my go-to for pre-buffing before a fight, as it means a shorter duration potion such as a potion of speed won't immediately drop before you engage. If you're still having trouble with the placement of the potions, you can also drag them out of your inventory and place them manually on the ground in order to ensure that all of your party can huddle around it and be close enough before hitting the bottle with an attack in order to shatter it. On top of buffing your entire party, you can also throw potions directly at teammates in order to apply buffs and healing at a range. Just be sure not to catch any of the enemies in the splash, as then they will also benefit from that potion. Positioning correctly is crucial during battles. This is especially true for ranged characters, as being on the higher ground than your target gives you a +2 bonus to hit with ranged attacks. This is a free accuracy bonus that you're leaving on the table if you don't take advantage of it where you can, so utilize your mobility options to achieve this whenever possible. It's good to note that the opposite is also true. Ranged attacks from low ground actually impose a -2 penalty to the hit roll. Finally, remember that enemies are also affected by these modifiers, so make sure to abuse the high ground as a way to both be more accurate with attacks and to impose negatives on those ranged enemies whenever you can. Jumping is one of the best mobility tools available to every character in the game, especially useful if you don't have another use for your bonus action. It allows you to trade your bonus action and 3 meters of movement for a short range jump. The distance of that jump starts at 5 meters by default and then scales off of your strength modifier. Essentially, for every +1 that you have, you get an extra meter. So for someone with a strength score of 16, and thus a modifier of +3, you would have an overall jump range of 8 meters. Default movement is 9 meters, so you can see just how useful this extra mobility can be, allowing you to reach enemies you wouldn't be able to just by running. Jumping also lets you get up ledges to get you that aforementioned height advantage, as well as being used to get across or out of difficult terrain and hazards without taking any penalties or having to make any saves. Another use for your bonus action is to enhance your weapon's damage by dipping it in either fire or poison. This will add an additional 1d4 damage to your weapon for a few turns. Fire sources themselves are quite abundant within the game worlds, and you should always be on the lookout for an open flame to increase your damage, things like torches, braziers, campfires, etc. Candles are a great source of portable fire damage, as they can be dropped for free on your turn and then used as a portable fire source. The other option, poison, is found throughout the game in many different forms, but the most common of them are basic poison bottles. You can use these to coat your weapons directly, or you can throw the bottle and create a pool of poison on the ground, not only leaving a hazard, but also allowing multiple people in your party to dip instead of just the one. One of the lesser known but equally important features of the game is the Karmic Dice system. This puts a weighted dice mechanic on every roll in the game, meaning you are more likely to roll better if you're on a fail streak and less likely to roll well if you succeeded multiple times in a row. It's up to you if you prefer this to true RNG, but the setting does apply to enemies too, so at least it's fair from that perspective. It can easily be toggled on and off at any time in the settings menu and is on by default. So if you don't want this to be on, be sure to turn off Karmic Dice ASAP. But that wraps up our 8 essential things that you need to know for Baldur's Gate 3. Try implementing them in your coming adventures. We plan to make much more Baldur's Gate content, so definitely consider leaving a like and subscribing if you found this video helpful. Until next time.